Remember when your kitchen counter had a plastic pitcher with a squishy milk bag inside, and the phone on the wall had a cord so long you could walk to the basement? There was a time in Canada when every home looked remarkably similar. The VCR always blinked 12 o'clock. The Sears Wish Book ruled Christmas morning dreams. And somewhere in a drawer, you had a wad of Canadian Tire money waiting for its moment. Today, we're walking through 1980s things found in every Canadian house. These weren't luxury items or status symbols. They were the everyday heartbeat of family life, from Saturday morning cartoons on wood cabinet TVs to Tupperware parties in the living room. Whether you taped hockey games, circled toys in catalogs, or counted your tire money before buying new skates, you're about to relive the texture of growing up Canadian. Which items defined your childhood home? Let's step back inside. The bagged milk plus pitcher. Picture this: Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes. Your mom pulls a clear plastic sleeve from the fridge containing 3 pouches of milk. She slides one into the pitcher, snips the corner, not too big, and pours. This wasn't quirky. This was Tuesday morning. Bagged milk took over Canadian kitchens in the late 70s and 80s, driven by the country's switch to metric. 4 liters in bags cost less to produce and ship than rigid jugs. Dairy companies saved money. Families saved cents. The ritual became muscle memory. Snip, pour, fold the bag back. It vanished from some provinces as big box retailers pushed uniform packaging, but in much of Canada, that pitcher still sits in the fridge today, a stubborn monument to practical innovation. The VCR with the blinking. The front-loading VHS deck sat beneath the TV like a faithful dog. It recorded hockey night in Canada. It played rented movies from the corner store. It time-shifted your life. But nobody, absolutely nobody, could set the clock. So it blinked. 12 o'clock. Forever. VHS won the format war against Betamax in the early 80s, and suddenly every Canadian household became a tiny broadcast studio. You could pause live TV, you could rewind the goal, you could tape Saturday cartoons and hoard them like treasure. The VCR died slowly, killed by DVDs in the late 90s, then executed by streaming in the 2000s. But for one glorious decade, that blinking clock was the kitchen timer of a generation. The wood cabinet CRT TV plus rabbit ears, heavy as a boulder, encased in fake wood veneer. The television wasn't just furniture, it was the altar. Families gathered around it for CBC broadcasts, much music videos after 1984, and Saturday morning cartoons. On top sat the rabbit ears, 2 telescoping antennas you'd twist and adjust until the static cleared. Sometimes you'd add a loop of wire for UHF channels. Sometimes you'd wrap foil around the tips. And when the picture rolled or fuzzed, you'd do what every Canadian kid learned: smack the side, hard. The CRT tube inside weighed 30 pounds. Moving day meant hernias. But the picture was warm, the sound was chunky, and the act of turning a physical dial made watching TV feel like piloting a spaceship. The cable box slider. A small brown box sat on top of the TV. A red LED display. A horizontal slider to change channels. Or, if you were fancy, an A/B switch to toggle between cable and your Nintendo. This was the bridge between broadcast television and the gaming revolution. Channel 3 was sacred ground. You'd flip the switch, and suddenly the TV became a portal to the Mushroom Kingdom or a pixelated hockey rink. The slider vanished when cable companies integrated tuners into set-top boxes, and HDMI made the whole idea of switching inputs invisible. But for years, that little box with the glowing numbers was the gatekeeper to every screen-based joy: the kitchen wall phone, Shale Plus Yellow Pages Nook Beige, Harvest Gold, Avocado Green. The phone hung on the wall near the kitchen table, and its curly cord stretched 20 feet if you pulled hard enough. Beneath it sat a wooden shelf holding the white pages and the yellow pages, both thick as bricks. Every call happened here, School project partners, dinner plans, grandma checking in. You'd twirl the cord while you talked, wrapping it around your finger until circulation stopped. This was the family communication hub, the nerve center of domestic life. It vanished when mobile phones turned every person into their own switchboard. Now, the Yellow Pages arrives once a year, unopened, and goes straight to recycling. Telling and preparing this video took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the video. The answering machine, a small box beside the phone, a tiny cassette inside, a red light that blinked when someone left a message. The answering machine arrived in Canadian homes in the early 80s and changed everything. You could screen calls. You could save messages from teachers, bosses, and friends. You'd record a family greeting, awkward, stilted, everyone giggling in the background. Then you'd wait. The red light was possibility. Maybe it was good news. Maybe it was someone asking you to the dance. The machine died when voicemail services built the feature into phone lines, and then smartphones made the whole idea of checking messages feel ancient. But for years, that blinking red light was the heartbeat of anticipation. The Sears Wish Book, thick as a phone book, delivered every fall. The Sears Wish Book was the internet before the internet. You'd flip through hundreds of pages, circling toys with a pen, folding down corners, arguing with your siblings over who saw the Transformer set first. This was pre-internet window shopping. This was the Christmas Bible. Eaton's had one too. Canadian Tire sent flyers. But Sears was the heavyweight champion. You'd write your letter to Santa with page numbers and item codes. You'd memorize the prices. You'd dream in glossy color photos. Sears filed for bankruptcy protection in 2017, and the Wish Book had died years earlier, killed by e-commerce. But for every Canadian kid in the 80s, that catalog was the map to happiness. Consumers distributing order slips. Imagine a store with no shelves, just catalogs. You'd flip through, find your item, fill out a tiny slip with a golf pencil, hand it to the clerk, and wait. Minutes later, someone would emerge from the back room holding your clock radio or Casio watch like a trophy. Consumers distributing was the IKEA of the 80s, budget-friendly, efficient, slightly mysterious. Kids loved the suspense. Parents loved the prices. The chain collapsed in the mid-90s, crushed by big-box retailers like Walmart, who could stock shelves and fulfill orders faster. But for years, that moment when your item came from the back felt like winning a prize on a game show. Canadian Tire money in the junk drawer green and brown bills, featuring a cartoon version of the Canadian Tire mascot. Earn them at the pump, earn them at checkout, stuff them in a drawer. Canadian Tire money wasn't real currency, but it felt real. You'd save up a stack and use it to buy light bulbs, hockey tape, or a new snow shovel. Kids counted it like treasure. Parents used it for emergencies. It was a mini economy inside the larger economy, a loyalty program before loyalty programs had apps and barcodes. Canadian Tire still issues the bills, but the program shifted heavily to digital cards. The physical money still exists, but it's rarer now, a nostalgic ghost haunting fewer and fewer junk drawers. Corelle and Corningware, virtually indestructible. White plates with simple patterns. Blue cornflour casserole dishes. Corningware went from oven to table without cracking. Corelle plates could survive a drop from counter height most of the time. These weren't fancy. These were workhorses, Sunday roasts, potluck lasagnas, weeknight casseroles. The Pyrex measuring cup with bold red letters sat beside them, used daily, never breaking. These brands didn't vanish, they evolved, adding new patterns and colors, but the 80s designs defined a generation of Canadian kitchens. If you inherited a set from your parents, you know, they still work. They'll outlive us all. Tupperware party specials. Your mom went to a party at a neighbor's house. She came home with plastic containers and avocado and orange. cereal keepers, burp seal bowls, modular stacks that fit together like Lego. Tupperware built a business empire on home parties, creating social networks decades before Facebook existed. Moms sold to moms. Leftovers finally had a system. The containers became heirlooms, passed down, still sealed tight 40 years later. Tupperware struggled in the 21st century as big box stores sold cheaper knockoffs and online retail eliminated the need for in-person sales parties. The company filed for bankruptcy in 2024, but the containers remain scattered across Canadian kitchens, still burping, still sealing, still refusing to die. Trivial Pursuit, born in Montreal in 1979, exploded across Canada in the mid-'80s. Trivial Pursuit turned every living room into a quiz show. You'd spin, move your pie-shaped piece, answer questions about history, entertainment, sports, science. Families fought over answers. Cottages stocked multiple editions. It wasn't just a game, it was a tournament, a weekly ritual, a test of who paid attention to the world. The craze cooled as video games rose and attention spans shifted, but Trivial Pursuit never fully vanished. It just became quieter, a nostalgic artifact pulled out at holiday gatherings, a reminder of when knowledge felt like currency and every dinner table could become a battlefield of facts. The boombox plus mixtapes, dual cassette decks, built-in radio, carry handle on top. The boombox was portable freedom. You'd record songs off the radio, timing the press of the record button to avoid the DJ's voice. You'd make mixtapes for crushes, for road trips, for yourself. The Walkman made it personal. Foam headphones, belt clip, orange foam earpads. This was the birth of personal music curation. This was the beginning of the playlist. CDs killed cassettes in the 90s. MP3s killed CDs in the 2000s. Streaming killed ownership entirely. But the ritual of making a tape, writing the track list on the J-card, and handing it to someone, that was love in physical form. Atari cartridges in the Rec Room, gray rectangular cartridges, blow on the contacts, slide it in, press it down. The Nintendo Entertainment System launched in Canada in 1986 and changed childhood forever. Mario, Zelda, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, hockey games where the players were chunky pixels. Before Nintendo, there was Atari, simpler, blockier, but just as magical. These cartridges lived in the Rec Room, piled near the TV, labels peeling, some games borrowed and never returned. The ritual of blowing into the cartridge to clean it was pure superstition. But every kid believed it worked. Cartridges gave way to discs, then digital downloads. But the physicality of sliding a game into a slot, hearing it click, and watching the title screen appear, that was pure, uncut joy. The basement Rec Room wood paneling, low ceiling tiles, shag carpet holdovers from the 70s, a dartboard, a framed Wayne Gretzky poster, a small bar in the corner, even if nobody drank much. The Rec Room was Canada's gift to itself, a space for parties, playoff nights, birthday celebrations, and movie marathons. Bowls of hickory sticks and ringolos sat on the coffee table. The couch sagged in the middle. The air smelled like basement, concrete, carpet, and possibility. Renovation trends in the 90s and 2000s transformed these spaces into home theaters and open-concept dens, stripping away the paneling and the charm. But for one decade, the Rec Room was the heart of the house, the place where life happened when nobody was watching. Hockey gear by the door sticks, helmets, gloves that smelled like death, an orange street hockey ball. Hockey wasn't a hobby in 80s Canada, it was a second language. Gear piled by the door, ready for the next game, the next practice, the next frozen Saturday at the rink. CCM and Cooper dominated the market. Kids played mini sticks indoors, slap shots in the hallway, goalie pads made from couch cushions. The sound of a tennis ball smacking the garage door was the soundtrack of summer. Hockey gear didn't vanish. It got pricier, more high-tech, more specialized. But the casual, leave-it-by-the-door culture faded as the sport became more expensive and formal. The microwave with cook chart magnet beige countertop unit, dial or soft-touch panel, a magnet stuck to the side listing cook times for everything: popcorn, potatoes, frozen dinners. The microwave arrived in Canadian homes in the late 70s but became standard in the 80s. It promised speed. It delivered convenience. Leftovers transformed from sad to edible. Mug cakes became possible. Microwave safe entered the vocabulary. The novelty faded as microwaves became ubiquitous, but for years, that ding at the end of the cycle was the sound of modern life. The bell that announced dinner was 30 seconds away instead of 30 minutes. Big glass ashtray on the coffee table. Heavy pressed glass. Ridges for resting cigarettes. Smoking was normal in 80s homes. Guests lit up after dinner. Ashtrays sat on every surface. Ads hadn't shifted. Public health campaigns were just beginning. The ashtray vanished as awareness grew, laws changed, and homes became smoke-free zones in the 90s and 2000s. It marks a social transformation you can measure in cleaner air and longer lives. Febreze didn't exist yet. You opened a window. The ashtray itself, once a staple, is now a relic, a reminder of how quickly culture can shift when health and science enter the conversation. Photo albums with sticky pages. Printed photos from 35 minutes or 110 film, cellophane sheets, sticky pages, Black's Photo or Photolab envelopes, weddings, school trips, camping, every memory lived in plastic sleeves. You'd wait days for photos to develop. You'd pick them up from the drugstore, negatives tucked behind prints. The album smelled like chemicals and static. Flipping through it was time travel. Digital cameras killed film in the 2000s. Smartphones killed cameras. Cloud storage killed albums. But somewhere in your house, under the bed or in the closet, a box of sticky page albums still waits, full of faces and places and moments you can't scroll past because you have to turn the page by hand. The Honeywell round thermostat beige round dial, eye level in the hallway. You'd turn it up in winter, down in summer. Baseboard heaters hummed and clicked. Dad policed the heat bill like a military operation. The Honeywell thermostat was hands-on comfort, simple, manual, honest. It didn't learn your habits or connect to your phone. It just did what you told it. Programmable thermostats arrived in the 90s, smart thermostats in the 2010s. The round dial became obsolete, replaced by screens and algorithms. But the muscle memory remains. Reach for the wall, twist the dial, wait for warmth. Which item hit hardest for you? The Wish Book, the blinking VCR, or the tire money stash? What did we miss from your house? Subscribe for more forgotten brands, vanished retailers, and the small things that made growing up Canadian feel like home.